Thank you, Jean. We have just a few minutes left, and we would love to hear some questions. We have microphones on either side, so please line up. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask a question that came across on Twitter for Jean, which is, what the heck does an evangelist do? And is there a role for an evangelist in health, in the health world?
I think, an evangelist is somebody who, like all of you, is passionate about something that they want to affect change in. Our earlier speakers spoke about the Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see in the world, and I think that's really vital. So I believe that there is a position for every one of us to be an evangelist for the thing that we care about, and if it's childhood obesity, or finding better health options, or increasing the access to parks, I think it's important for all of us to use social media and a variety of other platforms to do that.
Great, thank you. Just seeing out there, are there any questions that anybody has? Anything pressing on your way out the door that you always wanted to know about social media but were afraid to ask? Yes, thank you. Please, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Erin Nurse. I'm with the University of Arizona. We're a SNAP Ed program. And I'm just curious if you could, anybody who wants to field the question, all three of you all seem very knowledgeable in social media. Our program has kind of dabbled in Facebook and in Twitter, but we're kind of a low budget staff, and so we don't have somebody that can take on the responsibility of continually updating it or making sure that it stays relevant. And then we also run into issues of, we work with schools, and so they can't be on Facebook to access things through social media. So do you guys have any suggestions, or maybe is Facebook easier to connect with your audience, or Twitter, maybe a preference? And what are some low-cost, effective ways that we can, and also low-maintenance ways that we can use social media?
Well, I'll start. One thing that I often tell people is if you don't have a lot of time and resources, the thing you should think about starting with is, just as Marty was talking about, starting to listen and seeing what are people talking about out there about your issue, about your organization, what are the key questions that keep coming up, what are the themes that emerge that you might want to address through whatever else you might be doing outside of social media as well. So that can help you to kind of focus in and doesn't necessarily have to take a lot of time.
Yeah, I'd add to that just the importance of thinking about the strategy and what you're trying to do and comparing it with other activities that you do. I used to be a river organizer in Georgia, and I wouldn't think twice about driving 2 hours to a community meeting of 35 people to talk with them for 2 hours and then drive home. And I just spent 6 hours to talk to 35 people. And you might pick up a new member or get your message out to one or two people, or there might be a journalist at some town meeting. But now you can actually compare that. What is 6 hours a month of social media work where you're commenting on public comments, you're following reporters, you're listening to what's going on online, and you're trying to move your message that way? And do you have a clear ask? Do you have a reason on why you're engaging so that you get people to work with you? And then compare the results. I think that's the way that we need to go down this path of using social media based on data, on testing, on seeing what works. I fear that a lot of kind of nonprofits or other groups work on social media and they're not really sure why they're there or what the outcome is going to be. It's just like, hey, we're supposed to be there, and I feel like that's a bigger cost than any of the technology.
I think I see another question. Yes, please go ahead.
I think it's more of a comment that was really loud than a question. It's I just think it's really important always. It's that incentive, that ask that you were talking about. But and I think that the Childhood Obesity Conference did a great great incentive to join their Facebook page, and that was like you get a free registration if you join our Facebook page, and then they can do that information. I was the winner of the sweepstakes. So. So but we don't always have that kind of incentive. Is that kind of what you're using as the ask, like an incentive for people to actually like your page, or just, to be part of it?
No, the ask is usually, think about somebody reads one of your papers on clean water or on children's health conditions. They're inspired by your data. We often just leave them there, and there's no opportunity to engage them. I think what the ask is, what can they do? Is forcing all of us to say, even the presentations today, okay, we saw this great health company. What was the ask at the end of that? What was the hook that we could do to help encourage your company to do even more? I think always trying to figure out what's the ask that's going to drive the people to the next step of engagement is really what I'm talking about. So it's not necessarily throwing them a free iPod or a free, iTunes gift card, but really thinking about what can they do. You're here, you're moved on food marketing, there's an ask. Go to, Prevent Obesity /marketing and say something,
All right, well then I'm gonna go backwards one and then go, like, how do you even get people to be a fan or like your page or just, like, that's, I guess, the step that I'm at.
Yeah, I think the key incentive that you need to offer people to follow you on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, is you need to provide value. You need to provide information that's relevant to them, that's the kind of stuff that they're interested in learning about, or they need to feel like it's making a difference. Whatever you're asking them to do is going to do something.
And just to echo that, it's important to give them a platform to say what they need to say too. So even though we're in the government and we have to kind of watch what people say, it's really important to promote as much of their conversation and to take our conversation to where they congregate. So for those of you who are sort of like resource constrained, think about partnerships with other organizations. So a Facebook page doesn't have to be for your organization or your company. You could work with 2 or 3 other nearby groups to put something together. But don't do it until you know you can support it, because there's a lot of abandoned websites and Facebook pages out there and a lot of frustrated people who join a cause only to watch it wither and die. So make a commitment, but you don't have to do it alone. And there's a lot of tools out there that can help you sort of manage the communication and just keep that conversation going. I mean, I find the way to get followers and to get followers that really matter are to respond when people are having that conversation, whether they're asking it of my Twitter feed or if they're just referencing something from data.gov. So I'm a cyber stalker all over the place.
I also, every tool that I mentioned, the Google Analytics, the email tracking and click-through, all of those are free. Google Insight is free. So it's really about the thinking time as part of it. There's also another way to figure out your audience. I don't know if you can pull up the slides. There's a service called Rapleaf. This is the freak out moment. This is the bitter end right here. So this is instant data. We all know that there's lots of corporate data out there. So we asked them for a one-time delete only, aggregate only of this audience. And we were able to put it through an analysis where anyone can do this. You can upload a bunch of email addresses and they'll tell you what they know about those email addresses. So we uploaded 1,608 email addresses, and they had the age on 200 of you. They had the gender on 919 of you. They knew 180 of you had children or not. They knew your house market value of 200 of you. They knew your property type and the length of residence that you lived in your time. In aggregate, you can look at it. This is where the audience of this group lives in. This took less than 2 minutes. You put up the list, and it gets out to you. And I'll tell you why you do this in a second. So you can go on here, and you can see that where everyone's from. You can see that this audience is mostly female, between the ages of 35 and 64. The average income is between the house market value skews between $100,000 and $1 million. The income level, this is an amazing amount of free data that's available. Now, why am I interested in this all? Because this is the audience. You guys are the best activists in the world in California on childhood obesity. So what am I going to do with this data? I'm going to go into another free tool called Attentively, and I can see what you're posting online, any of your public profile information. And then I can go over to Facebook advertisements, and I can put something up there like our marketing campaign and say, I want to get this marketing campaign to people just like you, because you're the greatest ones. You get this stuff. You seem to be very active in this movement. So I can go into Facebook and find people in California. There's 17 million people in California. I can then look at women between the ages of 34 and 64. There are 5 million women on Facebook that I can get this to. And then I can look at the college graduates. There are 1.2 million. And I can buy an ad with $25 credit card at $1 or $2 per time you click and get that ad moving so that I get people like you to join my group. This could all be done for
a credit card with $25. So, and this is the cheap version. I didn't even pay for the data. If I wanted more, I could get what magazines to subscribe to, et cetera, et cetera. But just to kind of give you that what's out there and why, reason that Coke and Pepsi and all those marketing companies are so sophisticated is because this is available. And the used for good, not evil, this is the example of how you can use some of those tools to figure out your audience and how to reach them. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Marty. Thank you. It's 5 o'clock, and I know it's been an amazing conference, but I'm sure everyone is also eager to get back home and put to work all of the great knowledge that we've gained here. So please join me in thanking our panelists. Do you want to say something, please? And we'll see you all online.